Hey everyone, it's Jaeyang here, and welcome to the Overwatch patch 1.29 overview. If you prefer to watch a shorter patch rundown video I usually do, click on the link down below. Either way, let's get to it. Everyone's favorite grumpy old man, Soldier 76, has received a buff. The number of shots you can take before reaching his maximum spread on his heavy pulse rifle has been increased from 6 to 9. This change will have quite an impact when you're shooting targets from medium to longer ranges. Burst shooting has obviously been the preferred way people play Soldier 76 to keep his spread in check. His spread plus his damage falloff made it a bit more inconvenient for Soldier 76 players to take down targets that were further away. So while this isn't a flat out change to his damage numbers, this change will help you hit your shots more consistently. And we have more good news for hit scan players as we see Mccree receiving a buff as well. And while the changes aren't coming to his 6 shooter, they are coming to his combat role, which has its cooldown reduced from 8 to 6 seconds. A 2-second cooldown reduction to any ability in a game is great, and this is no exception. Being able to have your combat role more readily available to you as a Mccree player is huge. With one of Mccree's biggest weaknesses being his mobility, this buff is sure to help him out. Additionally, if you think of it a little bit more, this puts his roll cooldown to be the same as Winston's jump pack. The ultimate benefits of this change will have to be seen, but it certainly doesn't hurt. Speaking of spread changes, Orisa has received a buff to her fusion driver as well, reducing its maximum spread from 1.5 to 1.2. Now as you can see, the change isn't too big, it's more of a quality of life buff than anything else, but it really will help in her long range poking, which if you're playing Orisa, you'll be doing a lot of. The fact that Orisa fires projectiles as well as having a huge spread at longer ranges meant that all those little snipey kind of shots you're trying to make at longer ranges were kind of reliant on a bit of luck. So hopefully this change will kind of make you feel better about hitting your shots at longer ranges. Brigitte is a hero that has received a lot of nerfs ever since her release. Players quickly found out that the hero that single-handedly ended the dive meta could also end a lot of other heroes. And this time they have lowered her shield from 600 to 500 HP. This nerf is an understandable one, as even outside of her rally ultimate, her sustainability levels are akin to that of a tank and made her very hard to kill. With this change, players will have to be a bit more wary and selective of their shield usage. Because remember, if your shield breaks, you don't have your shield bash either. Okay, so let's move on to one of the bigger changes in this patch, which are obviously the changes to Farah. Firstly, there's been a slight buff to her rocket launcher's attack speed in that the delay between shooting rockets has been made quicker, so it goes from a delay of 0.9 seconds to 0.75 seconds, meaning you can unload your whole clip a little bit faster. But the biggest change to her is how her rocket's damage has been redistributed. Her rocket's explosion damage has been reduced from 80 to 65, which is 15 damage, and that 15 damage has been transferred over to the impact damage, increasing it from 40 to 55. Direct rocket hits are unaffected by this change. It's still going to be 120 damage for landing a direct hit. However, most of the time Farah will be sitting high up in the sky at medium to longer ranges, and hitting a direct shot at those kind of ranges is kind of up to luck or enemy error. But that didn't matter as much because the consolation prize was your splash damage. You could quite effectively punish groups of enemies that were grouped out from a safe distance away, charge up your barrage, and then go in for the kill. As of the current patch, that playstyle may not be as rewarding anymore. Your barrage will charge slower because you're doing less damage because your splash is weaker. There have been some discussions on whether this is a net buff or a net nerf for Farah. If you look at it strictly from a damage per second point, yes, it does look like a buff for her. She fires a bit faster and does a bit more damage. However, numbers don't really mean much if you can't effectively apply that to certain situations. We'll really have to give it a couple weeks to see how this pans out, how her playstyle will change, and whether it'll be good or bad. Anyway, there were some changes as well to the explosion knockback of her rockets. The explosion knockback on enemies has been reduced by 20%, which honestly is quite a small bit. It's very hard to notice. Probably in niche situations it would matter, but overall I wouldn't worry too much about it. And in return, the self-knockback range has been increased by 25%, which I assume is to compensate for that 20% loss so Farah's own rockets don't propel her less. So overall, her self-knockback should be around the same. And of course, the cooldown on her concussive blast has been lowered from 12 to 9 seconds, a 3-second decrease. This change is obviously a good mobility buff to her, which will be really welcome against the new Soldier 76. Often it's a debate of whether to use it offensively or defensively. Now there's a little bit more breathing room. This patch also brings along some visual changes which are very welcome, especially the changes to Mei. The biggest visual changes to her would be her primary fire, which is the spray, as well as her blizzard. Sometimes if you're caught by a Mei spray coming out of your field of view, like from behind you or from beside you, it's kind of hard to tell that you're getting sprayed initially until it's probably too late and you're slowed and frozen and you're dead. So this change makes your spray a little bit easier to see. However, if you are getting sprayed down by it, unless you have a movement ability, you're kind of gonna get frozen anyway, so don't think too much about it. And as opposed to just being a ring, her blizzard now extends out vertically, meaning it looks more like a snow globe. Not only is this very pretty, it also helps you gauge whether or not you're actually inside the blizzard, if it's above you or below you. More often than not, players will get caught out in blizzards where they're not even sure why they're getting frozen. Most of these cases happen when a blizzard is below you, say under a bridge when you're on the bridge and you're getting frozen by its vertical range. So hopefully this will get rid of all the confusion of where am I getting frozen from when you're trying to avoid a blizzard. Aside from Mei and her eyes, all shields and barriers in the game have been updated to increase their readability. If you've seen Symmetra's barrier wall ultimate, you kinda get where this is coming from. Basically, all the little hexagons in the shield have been made a little bigger, and the color has been kinda darkened a little, just to make it easier to see. This change really only affects the 3 shield tanks, so don't really think too much about it. Just shoot the shield. And the biggest change this patch is, of course, the Torbjörn Rework. And of course, I have a separate, more detailed Torbjörn patch rundown video. If you want to see it, click on the link down below. But very briefly, let's go through some of the changes that happened during his rework. His rivet gun's reload speed has been buffed from 2.2 to 2 seconds. His hit hitbox size has now been reduced by 10%, which is great because his hit used to be the size of a planet. His rivet gun's primary fire speed has been buffed as well from 60 to 70 meters per second. His rivet gun's alternate fire, which is his shotgun, damage has been lowered from 150 to 125. However, despite the lower damage, it has been increased in attack speed, with the recovery time between shots being lowered from 0.8 to 0.6 seconds. This makes his primary fire and secondary fire attack speed the same. The spread randomization on his gun has also been readjusted. What this probably means is where the pellets land is less dependent on luck and probably more consistent. Also, the range on his forge hammer has been buffed to align with his quick melee attack. Which, why wasn't it before? His armor pack ability has been removed from the game, meaning it's no more scrap and no more armor giving, and has been replaced with an ability called Overload. Think of Overload as a mini molten core. It lasts for 5 seconds with a 12-second cooldown at the end, and it temporarily gives you 150 armor, increases your attack, movement, and reload speed by 30%. His turret can now be thrown a short distance, and it automatically builds itself over 3 seconds. The level system has been removed from the turret. It is now constantly at 1 level, which is equivalent to the previous level 2. The HP of the turret has been nerfed from 300 to 250 health. The new Molten Core lasts for 6 seconds and replaces your gun with your claw arm. During those 6 seconds, you can fire up to 10 molten globules that create damage pools where they land and last for 10 seconds. The shots will bounce off walls and ceilings until they come into contact with the ground where they create the puddle. The base damage for the puddles is 130 damage. This damage rises up to 190 against enemies with armor. Funnily enough, this makes Torbjörn's ultimate counter his own daughters. Anyway, that's it for hero changes. However, we do have an update to the colorblind options in-game. I personally am not colorblind, so I cannot speak for the community. However, I do know a popular streamer, Colorblind, has been asking for additional features for a very, very long time, and I'm sure she's gonna be really pleased. And of course, the Halloween Terror returns! Happy Halloween, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the event. Hope you get your skins. Just play the event, have fun. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed this new format. It's different from the format I usually do. I usually do the patch rundown videos, which are shorter. I'm trying out this new longer format, see how it goes. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe if you want. I do this as a hobby. If you really enjoy my work, feel free to leave me a tip on my PayPal. Link is down below. Regardless, take care and have a nice day. Thanks for watching.